What makes us human? I'm asking this because I generally don't want to tell you that there's one correct answer. There's everything. It's the beating of our hearts, our creativity, and ingenuity. But I wouldn't be wrong in saying that it's our desire to connect with people through any means necessary. Art has played a very large part in that journey, with it being built on a collective of human experiences and expressions, being able to transcend languages and borders. Technology has also played a very large part in that journey, making those connections much more easier. Free libraries and archives, and so many programs and material for learning, anything you want, created by passionate people. So many communities born as well. And this isn't even mentioning the technological advancements. We can make complex calculations and notice patterns impossible to do by normal people. It's incredible how much we've been able to do through sheer will and curiosity. But we're still living in a time where we prioritize convenience of others and efficiency. And it does hurt people who take the time for themselves, for expression, for doing things that they want. As it has already been said, I am going to talk about generative artificial intelligence. And I want to be honest, Gen AI, never to be confused with regular AI, we love it. Gen AI disgusts me to my very core. And I know it is quite a reaction, but it goes against my very being. My entire creative path as an artist, as a person. If it isn't obvious, I draw, I write, I watch movies, I play games, I plan on further learning about art in university, and I talk to my friends about art all the time. Through my eyes, you would see a lot of metaphors, because I know that a person put them there. And if not, I certainly did. And I do all this because it brings me genuine joy. Most of the time. I still wonder if I was genuinely made for a journey like this, even with how many hours of sleep I lost. But I am reminded every single time how and why I've persevered for this long. But it is kind of disheartening seeing how generative AI just flattens all of it. Obviously there's the whole experience, but also the feelings and hardships associated with the entire process. And I feel so sad seeing that people are genuinely discouraged from people going on their creative journeys that they genuinely want to pursue. But it also discourages the process of learning. In this school, in 9th grade, all have to read Fahrenheit 451. It is mandatory. It is a book about a society where people stopped seeing the value in books. Books were continuously shortened and summarized until entire books could be summarized in a single sentence. And to stop people from imagining a better future, books were burnt and banned completely. The book begins like this. All people who are going to be reading this book next year, and people who have already read it, take your important lessons. Because there was always a very thin line between people discrediting the value of books and topics within them, and eventually hurting real people. This kind of harm can come in visible ways, such as actual book bannings, defunding of education in certain parts of the world, and underpaying teachers. But it also comes in slow, invisible instances. So So we haven't had a creative writing assignment in a long time now, in my English literature class. And we haven't had a proper literary discussion in a while now. We used to call them Socratic seminars with one of our previous teachers. And we don't have a lot of opportunities to feel as though our inputs are unique and are important when they really were. They still are. But it's still disheartening to see this kind of shift at our own school, where we're supposed to be learning, we're supposed to be making our own opinions, obviously, but there's also the whole factor of having fun connecting with other teachers, and I'm generally happy that we still have people here who are enjoying and encouraging discussions, from teachers to my classmates to my friends, but that's it. And I really do understand not wanting to read a book or a 20-page paper and having an essay, but it is important to have your own analysis, to have your own thoughts put into something you're working on. And also not wanting to write the same email over and over again, because yes, talking to people does get annoying sometimes, but sometimes conveniences is almost the point. It's part of the human experience. It's part of the many journeys that we go through as humans, as artists, as creatives. And this isn't a result of generative AI in particular, I need to say. This is part of a larger shift that generative AI just happened to fit into it very neatly, like chocolate on bread. Very enticing and very addictive to both students and the people selling this kind of sweetness to you. And again, I feel disheartened when nobody here, in my class in particular, is talking against even thinking of opening ChatGPT or AI, because this has been ingrained into us in 6th grade. We've been learning this. We've been learning why the entire process matters. Yes, the reflections were very annoying, especially when I had to do it for every single project, but we knew why it was important. I hope we still know why it is important. We've read Fahrenheit 451, and people still even think of opening ChatGPT? Really? That is even mentioning the environmental impact. According to Business Energy UK, in 2025, ChatGPT used, 39 million gallons of water globally, daily. That's a lot. Want to know how much that is? That is the equivalent of everybody in Taiwan flushing their toilets all at once. But instead of this water being used to keep ourselves and our toilets clean, it is evaporated. It is gone. It is further polluted and goes back to the communities in need of water. That is mentioning the heat generated from all these data centers that are, oh, by the way, storing lots of scrapped data that was taken without anyone's knowledge and definitely without anybody's permission. And I feel insane that I'm the only one yelling here, how was this allowed in the first place? I started genuinely putting my words into this speech only a week after one of the first protests here by Kotaro's assembly. There was so much color, so much noise. Can't you hear the music ringing throughout the country? So many communities, cultural institutions, and independent artists were brought together, even in our spite of a larger institution infringing on our freedom of speech. It is a feeling and courage that AI won't be able to replicate. which makes me genuinely so happy every single time I see people, not only artists, but people genuinely talking against the companies that are getting away with not only harming the environment, but also replacing real people and people who are definitely still wanting to pursue the passions that they need. So I had already a little too little time, but if you are pursuing something or are passionate about something or want to learn anything, now is one of the perfect times to do it. Even if not now, you have a lot of time. Don't let anybody rush you. And guess what? We're living in a time where you're able to not only pursue anything you want, but also actually make it. Isn't that incredible? And yes, the hurdles will be intimidating. This entire topic of generative AI is another big hurdle for artists in general, but I promise you it will be all worth the while. Because after a history of censorship and nurture appreciation, artists continue to exist, not because we're needed by anybody in particular, but we exist for ourselves, for others, for humanity, to inspire people to keep on living. I would like to end this speech with a quote. Medicine, law, business, engineering, there's a noble pursuits and necessary to sustain life. But poetry, beauty, romance, love, these are the things we stay alive for.